Makings of Things.
In the land of Widgeripoo, the trees say, how do you do?
Hello.
The bluebells ring, the spring flowers spring, the habit from me to you. In the land of Widgeripoo, the pink irrelevance flew. Way up high in the marmalade sky, in the land of Widgeripoo.
Yeah!
This is a tale for boys and girls, rather than a tale for cats and dogs. In fact, it is a Fairley story, which is a story that is fairly short but long enough to be read. That is, read in black and white rather than read in colour. It all began at the beginning when Tick-Tock started stopping, until he finally stopped starting. This was very sad because he could only stand and watch time go by without being able to keep up with it. Now, fortunately, a friendly habit came by and started to wind Tick-Tock up, as habits have a habit of doing, and Tick-Tock started to start again. By this time, of course, Tick-Tock had lost a lot of time and had to catch up with it again. He knew he was running late, but he was very grateful to the habit and talked of little else. Before very long, and after very short, little else came to hear how Tick-Tock was talking about her.
Really?
So she invited him round her house. Tick-Tock went round little else's house several times before he decided to actually go inside. By now, it was almost dinner time. Little Else had laid on a beautiful almost dinner, which, despite being very beautiful, made her dress very sticky. Knowing herself to be in a sticky situation, she decided to change into something else.
What happened to Little Else?
Asked Tick-Tock when something else appeared. Something else was hungry by this time, so she replied,
Isn't a girl allowed to change when she wants to? Besides, I'm hungry, so why don't we eat this beautiful almost dinner before it gets hot?
Heartily, they tucked into the almost dinner, after which untucked them again and set about the task of washing up all the dirty cutlasses and crocodiles.
I hear you are interested in animals.
Said something else, who hadn't actually heard anything, as it had been very quiet all day.
Where did you hear that?
Asked Tick-Tock.
Through my ears, of course.
Something else replied, which proves you can hear anything, even if it's very quiet, if you try hard enough. The trouble is, most people often try too soft.
Yes, of course,
Said Tick-Tock.
Well, it's true. I do like animals.
Well,
Something else continued as she drew up a bucket of water.
I'll tell you about an animal I used to know.
Oh, really?
Replied Tick-Tock as he tested the water for wetness.
What was he?
Yes.
Said something else.
What?
Asked Tick-Tock.
What was he?
Something else replied.
That's what I asked you.
Said Tick-Tock, feeling a little confused. The little confused got up and scampered away as he didn't like being felt. He hid himself in a corner and changed into leather, which is harder than felt and even harder to change into.
The animal was called a what was he?
Something else explained.
It was a very strange animal with a long nose, pointed ears and a tail like a beaver.
What was his tail like a beaver?
Asked Tick-Tock. Tick-Tock was full of questions, as something else had put far too many of them in the after dinner, and they keep repeating on him. There's nothing more annoying than repeated questions, is there?
Because
something else told Tick-Tock.
He had an uncontrollable habit standing on his head.
Did the uncontrollable habit always stand on the what was his head?
Asked Tick-Tock.
Oh no!
Something else continued.
The what was he eventually controlled his habit, which, once controlled, went out into the world to do some wonderful work.
What work did he do?
Asked Tick-Tock, finding himself wrapped up in the story. Something else unwrapped him from the story and then continued.
He dedicated himself to finding dirty habits and set about the task of cleaning them up.
She told him.
And when all the dirty habits of the land of Widgeripoo were cleaned up, he found himself a ladylike habit, and they settled down in their own little habitat. They had lots of little habits, some good and some bad, and they all lived happily ever after.
Happily after what?
Asked Tick-Tock.
Ever after, they lived happily, of course.
Explained something else.
For old habits never die.
Silence fell upon the two friends, but they managed to get out of the way in time before it actually hit them. They continued talking until dawn broke. Now dawn broke every day, and every day something else had to stick her back together again. She promised herself that she would buy some stronger glue that day, but then, you see, she always broke her own promises, and then she would have to stick them back together again. Something else was well known for sticking things. She was always being asked to join clubs, and she always stuck to her word. This often made things difficult when she wanted to get her word across to others, and then those people got stuck for words. Now, because of this meeting, Tick-Tock and something else fell in love. Once they had helped each other out of love, they decided to get married. Unfortunately, marriage was already tied up with other plans, and other plans are often very difficult to get out of. So they went off to seek the advice of Big Clock.
"Leave it to me,"
said the Big Clock.
"I'll get you married by the beginning of next year, after I have got through all the red tape."
But isn't the red tape that's the problem?
Tick-Tock chimed in.
Married is tied up with other plans.
"Then I will get other plans for you,"
the Big Clock promised.
"Then you will be free to get married."
The Big Clock then struck one, but the other one got away. It was Tick-Tock who had been struck with an idea. The idea proved to be useful, so he kept it. They introduced red tape to other plans in the revolving doors of the Big Clock's house, and they've been going round together ever since. They then invited Married into the inside of the Big Clock and followed her in. Tick-Tock and something else got married in the spring, and something else changed her name, as is the custom when ladies get married. She changed her name back to Little Else, as that had been all that Tick-Tock could think of since the beginning of this story. They all lived happily ever after the beginning of this Fairley story, and they went on to have many adventures in the land of Widgeripoo, as you will find out if you can be bothered to read the rest of this very confusing book. Just remember though, before you read the next chapter, don't get confused, or confused may get you.
Hello, Tick-Tock. I want you to know I'm a big fan.